Hey everyone, Jack here, TalkNorwichCity. I hope you're all doing very well indeed. It's a spectacular Sunday morning weather-wise. In terms of the footballing mood, it's rather glum, I'm afraid. Norwich City fell to their fifth straight Premier League defeat this season. If you take into consideration the last time Norwich City were in the Premier League, that's now 15 consecutive Premier League games where we've lost. The longest stint of a single manager in terms of a losing run, 15 straight Premier League defeats for Daniel Farke. And Norwich find themselves in a really perilous position. This match review is brought to you today by OneFootball. Thank you for their continuous support throughout this season. It's a genuinely really good app. It's completely free. You know the spiel by now. Links in the description. Head over there and you won't regret it. Often with these reflections on a Sunday, I can come into them with a degree of clarity and calmness. And usually I'm more, how shall I say it, calm coming into these reviews than I am if we have lost the previous day. But this week's different. I feel more disappointed than I did yesterday, and I feel more let down than I did yesterday. And having watched and consumed respected voices in this community speak their minds on yesterday's defeat to Watford, I think I probably was a bit easy on Norwich yesterday. I walked away from Carrow disappointed, but maybe not as aware of the manner of the defeat in which I am now. Watching the goals back was a terrifying experience, really, just to see how poor our defence looks. You know, of course, the goals we conceded yesterday, you know, I was disappointed at the time. I thought, well, we could have done better, but they didn't look as bad as they did on the telly. And having watched them back multiple times, just because I like putting myself through pain watching Norwich, they just got worse every time. I mean, each of the goals is just a calamitous kind of pattern of errors. The first one, abysmal, not closing the cross down as we'd been warned, because multiple crosses had already been delivered in the box from that area, and the fact that Dennis, who's about 4'2", managed to get in between Kabak and Max Aarons was disappointing. The second goal was the worst of the bunch. Just saying to Watford, come at us, come at us, come at us. They got there. And then match of the day, we're making it out that Sarr's run was like something that prime Pele had put together, but it was a very simple 4-yard dash in between the two centre backs, and that was dismal. And then the third goal was, well, a real crushing blow, where Kenny McLean inexcusably tries to clear the ball, fails, and then once again Norwich City just almost say to Watford, come and score, come and put us out of our misery, so to say. And with all of them things combined, we lost 3-1. And we'll get on to the very few positives later, but I'm really disappointed with how Daniel Farke not only handled the in-match substitutions and just in general. I'm more disappointed with the way that Daniel Farke approached this match from a press perspective. I thought he had an absolute howler in the press this week. And I really like Daniel Farke. I think he's done brilliant things for this football club. But to come out and criticise the fans for providing critique towards his players, I thought was pretty disrespectful, I must say. I could understand Farke's frustrations if Norwich City had lost an anomaly of a match 4-0, and you know we were doing okay in the league and fans come out. Like I get that, but Norwich City fans have watched Norwich lose 15 straight Premier League games, all of which have been dismal, and have defended the football club to the absolute hilt when pundits and journalists have come out, and in sometimes rightly come out, to criticise Norwich City's ability to compete in the Premier League. It is evident that Norwich City, at this current moment, cannot compete in the Premier League. Yes, we've had a difficult start to the season, but this isn't an isolated period of results. This spans over the course of 15 games, 15 plus games. And I know that the side is different, and I know that we're in a different scenario this time, but there are still similarities between the two seasons. And if you're taking this season solely in isolation, then that's probably even more damning, because there have been very few moments in games where we've looked genuinely in it. We had probably 15 to 20 minutes against Watford where we looked like we might get something, and a similar period of time against Leicester where we looked genuinely like we might get something. But is that really where we're at now, that we can come away happy because we've competed for a fifth of a football match? I think that's incredibly demeaning to the football club and to the fans who paid very good money. And as I say, I think are an incredibly patient fan base. I follow multiple fans across multiple divisions and football clubs who I can guarantee you will turn quicker than what Norwich fans have done. And I think Norwich fans on the whole get the philosophy and get the financial model that Norwich City are operating under. I think that's, across the board well understood. Where the frustration comes is the genuine lack of ability to compete. And yes, when you go to the Etihad and lose 5-0, you can kind of get it. As I mentioned on this video, a month ago, we're going up against a side whose team is assembled with players of the value of £1 billion. You're not going to be able to compete with that. I think the manner of that defeat was disappointing. Where you can compete is against a side that finished below you in the Championship last season, and for large stages of the Championship last season didn't even look like they'd finish in the top 6. That's what feels incredibly disappointing. And Watford, across the pitch, were better than us. Defensively, they looked more astute. The midfield battle was won by them on a consistent basis, and going forwards, I thought they were absolutely streets ahead of us. I thought Sarr was brilliant. Dennis Dennis had Max Aaron's all ends up for the full 90 minutes. And I thought Josh King led the line well. Norwich City have got vast sums of money in that attacking department. You've got Josh Sargent, who was 10 million, Milo Rashica, who was 10 million. You've got a player on the bench who was 10 million in Christos Jolis. You've got Todd Cantwell, who Norwich City were, as the press were making out, receiving large bids for. We have quality in that area, and yet still we just looked so far off the pace. I thought Pukki's finish was good, but other than that, we didn't really create any chances. And we now find ourselves 5 games in without a single point and 2 tough away trips coming up. Could any of you genuinely comment and come to me and say that you expect to get anything from Burnley and Everton? I think it was something like 38 consecutive Premier League games where Norwich City have gone behind and then not won. Norwich City just, for some reason, don't have the ability to take setbacks and be able to change the course of direction in a game. And I think that has to be down to Daniel Farke's inability to change things at the highest level in football. There is absolutely no debating that Daniel Farke is one of the brilliant Championship head coaches. But if we are basing arguments solely on evidence, which I think we should do as rational and intelligent football fans, we have to base opinion off evidence. And Daniel Farke isn't good enough at Premier League level at the moment. Now, I'm not saying that we should sack Daniel Farke. I think a lot of Norwich fans would say we should sack Daniel Farke. It'd be hard for me to come on here and argue against that, considering the Premier League record that Daniel Farke has. And until things change, I think it's incredibly difficult for people like me who probably don't want Farke sacked at the moment to argue against those that do. I think the actions of Daniel Farke in the press this week has made things more difficult for him. And the fact that a substitution in Josh Sargent yesterday was audibly booed by large sections of the football ground. I can't remember the last time that happened. It was probably, goodness knows, like Alex Neil days maybe, possibly. I don't know. And to be honest, with that substitution, The Norman one made less sense. The Josh Sargent one, although he'd been brilliant, it was evident that, one, he looked slightly injured. He was, holding his calf for large portions of the game. It kind of made sense, but it shows where the fan base is at. They feel like they've been let down. They feel like they've been disrespected. And to those that booed Josh Sargent's substitution yesterday, I get it. I completely get it. So we find ourselves in a really difficult scenario. I think the game in midweek against Liverpool is solely now about trying to rebuild bridges and put in a performance that warrants some optimism. Because if we lose that, which is likely, and then we go to Goodison Park, and I know Everton haven't been incredible this season, but it's a difficult away trip, and suddenly you're looking and you're like, I don't know where the next point's coming from, let alone a win. And I know that Daniel Farke advertised the game against Watford as not being a must-win, but I think everyone knew it was, and I think once again that was him trying to deflect the responsibility and saying, well, if we don't win, it doesn't really matter, because I always said it wasn't a must-win anyway. Yesterday against Watford was a must-win game, and we didn't win it, and it sets a precedent for where we're at. Match of the Day's review of Norwich City was damning, and I thought correct, with them saying, basically, it was Martin Keown for 5 seconds going, look, I'm not writing Norwich off, but they don't look good enough. And me, as the most passionate and ardent Norwich City fan, how am I supposed to disagree with Martin Keown? We don't look good enough. We were miles off the pace against Watford and in the previous 4 games. And we are quickly turning into the laughing stock of the Premier League. And I refuse to listen to any other opinion than that, because we are not good enough and it needs to change quickly. There we go. That was fun, wasn't it? Blimey. The positives. Matthias Norman was good and his haircut's wonderful. Pukki's finish was brilliant and he looks far sharper than he has done in the previous 4 games. Josh Sargent was brilliant. And the pre-match beers were half price. There's my positives. Thanks very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Norwich 1, Watford 3 down in the comment section down below. We'll be back next week for loads more content. I bet you can't wait after that. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you later. Bye-bye.